In the wake of World War II, the seas remained a space of high tension, where naval customs struggled to adapt to new post-war borders. On October 22, 1946, a British naval squadron entered the North Corfu Channel. Despite the waters being considered safe after previous sweeps, two destroyers, the HMS Saumarez and the HMS Village, struck newly laid anchored sea mines. The explosions were devastating. 44 British sailors were killed, and 42 others were left with severe injuries. This tragedy brought the United Kingdom and Albania to the brink of a localized naval conflict. To resolve the crisis before it could escalate further, the newly formed International Court of Justice was called to hear its very first case. The UK responded with a display of naval force. In November 1946, they launched Operation Retail. A massive British fleet swept the channel and recovered 22 German-made mines to use as evidence. They carried out the entire operation without Albania's permission. When both nations finally arrived at the World Court, they presented a complex legal dilemma. Each side claimed the other had violated their sovereignty, forcing the judges to determine how the right of passage and the rights of a coastal state should coexist. The initial legal question was a matter of fact. Did the Albanian government actually lay the mines that destroyed the British ships? The court determined that the identity of the mine layer was not the deciding factor. Because Albania maintained constant surveillance over the narrow strait from its coast, the judges concluded that the government had to have known the mines were there. The court grounded its decision in elementary considerations of humanity, establishing that obligations to protect life don't end when a conflict concludes. This created a clear legal duty. Albania was required to warn any approaching shipping of the imminent danger in its territorial waters. Because a state cannot knowingly allow its territory to be used for acts that harm the rights of others, the court found that Albania's failure to warn made them legally responsible for the loss of life. Albania's defense centered on the presence of the British fleet. They questioned whether armed warships had any right to be sailing so close to their coast in the first place. Albania argued that their sovereign rights allowed them to require prior authorization before any foreign warship could enter their territorial waters. Looking at the channel's geography, the court set a new standard. Because the strait connects two parts of the high seas, it was classified as an international highway. This granted the UK the right of innocent passage, allowing peaceful transit without Albania's permission. This ruling became a vital pillar for global shipping. It prevented coastal nations from blocking strategic maritime choke points, ensuring that international straits remained open for global navigation. The British government assumed that because they successfully found the mines during Operation Retail, their aggressive sweep would be fully vindicated by the court. Instead, the court delivered a sharp rebuke. The judges ruled that the unauthorized minesweeping operation was an illegal act of force that violated Albania's sovereignty. The court explicitly rejected the UK's defenses of self-help and intervention. The ruling clarified that the need to gather evidence or seek justice does not give a nation the right to assemble a naval force and enter another state's territory without consent. This established a new boundary in international relations. Being the victim of a crime does not grant a nation the legal license to abandon international law in its pursuit of a remedy. The final financial verdict was significant. The ICJ ordered Albania to pay the United Kingdom £843,947 for the damage to the ships and the casualties among the crew. However, as the Cold War intensified, Albania refused to acknowledge the judgment or pay the debt. The matter remained in a legal stalemate for decades, only reaching a final settlement in 1996, exactly 50 years after the incident occurred. While the financial debt took half a century to clear, the legal logic of the ruling began to serve as an essential anchor for future maritime treaties. The legacy of the Corfu Channel Case eventually became a cornerstone of the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. That convention finally codified the balance the court had sought to define, protecting the sovereignty of coastal states while guaranteeing the right of ships to pass through international straits. This first case for the World Court proved that international law could protect both the freedom of the seas and the sanctity of national borders. The double-edged verdict left a clear lesson. No matter the human cost or the level of anger involved, military power does not give any nation the authority to act above the law.